about Charlie, except that I do know that he is probably one of the premier replica seekers in the area, and that he tells an very interesting story about the lost rifles, which he will be doing tonight. His internet designation is replica nut, so that will give you a pretty good idea.
Relic nut.
Relic nut. Relic nut.
Not replicas. Oh.
No replicas for Charlie.
Oh, no.
All true relics. If you will, sir.
Okay. This story, well, first I'm going to say something you probably kicked me out for. But I have absolutely no Confederate ancestors whatsoever. I got one Civil War ancestor, and that is it. And he was the standard bearer of Old Abe the Eagle for the 8th Wisconsin. That's the only Civil War's ancestor I have. My parents were from the state of Washington, about as far out of the theater as you can possibly get. This story starts back, actually, let's see, I'm now 68, 61 years ago. I was raised on Lookout Mountain. And one day my parents took me over to a friend's house, Bill and Phyllis Haynes, over off of Gun Barrel Road. And Bill had hanging over his fireplace an old rifle. His old rusty replica. Excuse me, old rusty replica.
Sorry.
And Bill pulled it down above the fireplace, and he let me handle it and look at it, and told me this rifle was found in a cave on the side of Lookout Mountain, 1931. Well, I was raised on Lookout Mountain. He just a 7-year-old kid. I was fascinated. I said, Bill, I want that someday. He said, no, you come look at it anytime you want, but you'll never own it. Well, when I was 27 years old, I owned it. I finally convinced Bill. I had rebuilt 2 Civil War swords from old blades that came out of an armory fire, and I got reproduction, nice, pretty, shiny brass guards from Dixie Gun Works, and I rebuilt it, and I convinced him those 2 swords crossed above his fireplace would look a whole lot better than that old rusty rifle. And I traded them even for it. As a result, this is the one I came home with. I think the reason Bill had it, because it was probably the worst of the 9 that were found. The guy was willing to turn loose of it. He was an old oil man and a lawyer here in Chattanooga. And he had been, one Sunday afternoon in 1931, he'd been hiking around the side of the Lookout Mountain. Probably started at Craven's house, working his way around the point, got around the west-hand side of the mountain, and found a cave. Well, what red-blooded American can look at a cave and not go in? Well, he did. It's I think more of a rock shelter type cave. And leaning against the back wall were 9 rifles. Just leaning there, right where they'd been for God knows how many years. Well, he took at least 2, maybe 3 trips, hauling them back to his car, probably about 3 miles on each leg, back and forth, hauled them down to his office. I say he gave this one to Bill, which I recognized after I started collecting guns a little bit. It's a model 1816. It's made somewhere between 1816 and 1830. It was originally a flintlock. You can tell by the brass plate down here where the flash pan used to be. And it had been converted to the percussion system. As I say, I got it. The stock from about here up is still real solid wood. The stock from here down is almost fibers. I take my fingernails and put marks in it. It's been sitting in the dirt, leaning up against the wall. Well, I thoroughly loved it. I showed it off every chance I got when people came over the house. And then one day, down at the office, I don't know if it was a coffee break or lunch break or something, got talking to some of the guys down there, and I got talking to this crazy old rusty rifle I had. Well, one of the guys piped up and said, you know, there's a barber shop down in Jasper, Tennessee. The guy's a gun collector. It seems like he got an old rusty rifle, came out of a cave someplace. My ears perked up. And things were a little bit slow that afternoon, so I talked to my boss and let me take a half a day vacation down there at TVA, and I headed to Jasper. Found the barber shop, found the owner, got talking to him. And he said, yeah, I'm a gun collector. He says, I got one of the old rusty rifles that came out of that cave. And he pulled it out, actually took me back to the back part of the shop where he had some of his old guns, and this is one of them. And he showed it to me. Well, this is what he came out with. I said, well, how'd you get a hold of it? And he kind of paused and said, well, the guy died that found him. He died in the middle 1950s. And his wife had no use for all that garbage. Garbage, yeah. Well, I got looking at it and I was fascinated. I recognized it as a model 1842. It's a little bit short. Model 1842 is about that long. The reason he'd taken this one, well, he'd been up there visiting the wife, and he showed some interest in these old rusty guns. He said, here, you want one? Take it. He picked out the one that actually still worked a little bit. Says he collected good guns and took it home with him. Well, by the time I met him, this was middle 1970s, about 20 years after he'd gotten it. And he said, you know, I collect good guns. I took this one, it kind of fascinated, just an old rusty relic. And it came out of the cave on the side of Lookout Mountain. So I took it. He said, if you're interested in this, and I said, well, I already got one of them. He said, you got $65? I said, yeah. There's $65, you can have it. I had number 2. Well, if you notice, the end of the barrel has been cut. It's not square. It looks like it's going, to exaggerate it, he's cut it at an angle. What happened somewhere along the way, it probably got dropped, the barrel got bent, they took a hacksaw, just whacked it off, took a knife, cleaned out the burrs on the inside. It was still shootable. It didn't hurt anything, it was just a little bit shorter. Well, I now had 2 of them, and I was fascinated with them. Well, I used to be in a Jeep club. We get our 4-wheel drive Jeeps, go up on Sand Mountain or up on Mount Etna, see who stuck the worst. Some of those strip mine mud holes. I've seen times it's taken 5 Jeeps to pull 1 Jeep out. You've probably been up there, the motorcycle. You know what I'm talking about. Oh, there's some mean mud holes up there. Well, one day or one weekend, we had a Jeep trip. We went up the Little Sequatchie Cove. You go up Sequatchie Cove and you take off an offshoot of the Little Sequatchie. It was a road. Yes, it was a road. We found 2 or 3 house foundations along the road. That says it was a road at one time. Well, it's 9 miles from the foot of the mountain to the top of the mountain. We started out early on Saturday morning. We hit the top of the mountain about dark on Sunday night. 9 miles. I rolled my Jeep. I tried to go up, instead of going straight up a slope, I got a little bit angled and just rolled completely over. They hooked a chain to the bottom and yanked me back over the wheels. Checked to make sure I had enough oil. Took off again. We got about halfway up the mountain. It got dark. So we camped out all night. Had a bonfire telling ghost stories and tall tales and everything else. And I got to talk about these 2 rifles I had. Well, one of the guys piped up. He said, you know, I got an uncle down in Ringo. He's been, what, 20 years ago. When I was a 12, 13-year-old kid, he had an old rifle. You know, he came out of a cave someplace. Oh, no. Well, I got his uncle's name and address and telephone number. Well, I didn't get there down there quite as fast as I got when I got the second one, but that following Thursday, I didn't even call the guy. I just drove down to his house, parked in front of it, walked up, knocked on his front door. He came out, and I introduced myself and said, I know your nephew so-and-so. He's in a Jeep club. We've been having a lot of fun running out in Jeeps. He told me, he says, you heard something about an old rifle that came out of a cave someplace. Oh, yeah. What did I do with that? It's here in the house someplace. It was about 6 o'clock, the news was on. He said, just sit down and watch the news for a while. I'll see if I can go find it. I sat there and watched the news, and watched the news, and watched the news. The wife wasn't there, he's there by himself. Finally, about 15, 20 minutes later, he comes walking out with an old rusty rifle. He said, I had a devil find that thing. I finally found it back of a closet. It had suitcases and clothes and junk piled up. He said, it took me 5 minutes just to dig back to it. He came out, this old crazy thing. And if you look down the barrel, you notice the barrel's bent even. I mean, it's a big old chunk out of the stock. Got nice brass furniture on it. Again, it was originally a flintlock, converted to percussion at some time or another. I got looking at it, I was fascinated. Well, even down here on the stock, underneath this tag, is the date when it was made. 1779. This is 80 years before the Civil War. It could have been used in the Revolutionary War. Well, I was fascinated with it. I realized that he didn't have a whole lot of interest in it, having been stuck back in the back of the closet the way it was, where he'd forgotten all about it. And I told him, I said, I already got 2 of them. I got one, I said, one for the Hayneses, another one from the guy down in Jasper. I said, now here's the daggone 3rd one. I said, you tell him I don't really have that much interest in it. It's a fascinating thing. I said, well, how'd you get it? I said, I knew the family. And I was up there visiting one afternoon, and I saw them sitting there in the living room. And I got looking at her. She said, here, if you want one, take one. I took it. As you see where it's been, it's out of my closet. I said, I traded for the first one. I got the second one for 65 bucks. He said, you got another $65? I said, yeah. So I came home with this one. Now I had 3 of them. I mean, just out of everything is by pure chance. Well, it kind of sat like that for a number of years. One night, Dr. Reese Buttram, I don't know if you know him or not, Dr. Ross Buttram was a baby doctor in Chattanooga. He's dead now. Reese was his son. He ran the X-ray unit down at Memorial Hospital, I believe. Reese has been a big relic hunter like I am since he started back in the early 60s, about 7 or 8 years before I did. And he was up at the house one night looking at all my relics. He was fascinated, just like I was fascinated with his relics, anybody's relics. And he saw the 3 rifles. He asked me, what's the story on that? Well, I told him the story, basically what I've told you all so far. He said, Charlie, it's a fascinating story. I believe every word you said, but something's not quite right. There's something about it that bugs me. It's not right. I said, Reese, I got a little bit of that feeling myself. I don't know what it is. And we let it go with that. Well, about 4 or 5 years later, he called me one night and says, Charlie, I found out what was bothering me about those rifles. I said, you did? I said, what was it? I'm not going to tell you. Reese, you're not going to tell me? No. He said, I was reading an old article, in one of the old Confederate veterans, 1896, 98, I forgot which issue it was. And he said, it's about the Battle of Lookout Mountain. I said, I'll tell you that much. And he said, I Xeroxed the article. This on a Thursday. He said, I mailed it to you. I want you to read it, see if you come to the same conclusion I came to. I said, okay. This was on Thursday. Friday, he lives in North Chattanooga, I live in Ooltewah, 25 miles as the crow flies. Friday didn't show up. Saturday didn't show up. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday. Finally on Tuesday he showed up 10 days to go 25 miles. This is our postal service. They had better than that during the Civil War, under battlefield conditions. I sat down and read the article. Oh, gosh, I was fascinated. The guy starts out, he says, about 3 issues ago, you had a wonderful article in the Confederate Veteran about the Battle of Lookout Mountain. He says there are a couple of major errors in it. He says, I'm trying to put the Civil War behind me. I mean, it's over. It was hell on everybody. Hundreds of thousands of lives lost. I'm just trying to put it behind me. But I do read the Confederate Veterans every now and then, which is basically reminiscences of the soldiers write in about what happened to them during the war. And there's this article about the Battle of Lookout Mountain. It had a couple major errors in it. Now, I just can't let these errors remain. It says, start off with, the article keeps on talking about Colonel Brown's brigade on the side of Lookout Mountain. It says Colonel Brown was nowhere near Chattanooga at this time. That was Colonel Moore's brigade on the side of Lookout Mountain. My name is Colonel Moore. I'm going to tell you what happened. Beautiful. What a way to start out an article. Well, I read it. It went on and on. He says, basically what happened is our brigade with a bunch of others, about 15, 16, 17,000 of us, captured the Battle of Vicksburg, July 4, 1863. We were paroled. That means we were sent home on our honor. Our weapons were taken from us. We were sent home on our honor. That we would not go back to war until we were officially exchanged. John Brown won Yankee. Joe Smith won Confederate, officially exchanged. They go back to war. All on our honor system. Well, we all went home. About the first part of October, we got notification that the exchange had taken place. And we could go back to war again. Well, we had no weapons, but we reformed in a little town down in Alabama called Demopolis. It was a railroad river town. So there wasn't a whole lot there. But we reformed. I think there was 27th Mississippi, the 28th Mississippi, 29th, 39th Alabama, 41st Alabama. I've forgotten what the other units are. I hated history in high school and college. I hated to memorize names and places and times. But he said that we had no weapons with which to train. So we learned all the marching maneuvers and everything that we had to learn. Well, then we had a little guy called a midnight requisitioner. Y'all probably been in the military, you know what a midnight requisitioner is. I don't care if you need a pack of cigarettes, a bottle of booze, or a woman. He will find it for you somehow, at some price, some way. It will show up. Well, this be a little midnight requisitioner. He found an outbuilding, not an outhouse, but an outbuilding down by the railroad station that was loaded with junk weapons. Loaded with junk weapons. He said most, which means most, not all, had most of the necessary parts, lock, stock, and barrel. Some are probably missing the firing mechanism. He said they're fine for training, learning how to load a weapon and manual arms and everything we needed to know for battle. Then he made a statement. He said we could not even get the correct ammunition for these weapons. I kind of thought, couldn't get the correct ammunition. I think this is what Reese was trying to tell me. He says, we took the weapons and the ammunition that was issued to us, we tear the back off the cartridge, pour the powder down the barrel, dropped the bullet down the barrel and ram a handful of leaves down the barrel to keep the bullets from falling out. Okay? By the time the battle and the war got to Chattanooga, the South and the North had pretty well standardized on 58 caliber ammunition. The South with captured Yankee Springfields, caliber 58, thousands and thousands of them they captured in different battles. And the imported British Enfields, caliber 5.77, which is caliber 58. And here in Chattanooga, you find very, very little 69 caliber ammunition. About the only place I've already found any has been on the side of Lookout Mountain, up on the Frierson property. And this is what was bothering me to me. If you notice the bore on these things, it's about a shotgun barrel. That's 69 caliber. This is 69 caliber. This is 69 caliber. This is 69 caliber. Here and here. Every one of these rifles that was issued were obsolete weapons. Well, a couple years later, Jim Ogden, the chief historian at Chickamauga Park, he called me one night. He'd been at the house 2 or 3 times. I think we had a round table meeting up there and a couple others. He said, "Charlie, you got those 3 rifles that came out of the cave at Lookout Mountain. He says, any way that the Chickamauga Park can borrow those for about 6 months and put on display out here at the park?" I said, "I don't mind. I let him borrow them." I gave him all the information I had on them, the background and what story I had on them. He had a real nice display case and had them out there for 6 months plus 2 years. 2.5 years, I finally got them back. Well, Jim had done some additional research for me. I mean, he's got better research facilities than I do. This first one is that this conversion was done down at the Augusta Arsenal down in Augusta, Georgia. So it's a Yankee rifle, by conversion, it's Confederate. This one didn't need conversion. This one here was French. It's a French foot and Marines weapon. Made in the 1770s and 1780s. They sent a whole shipload of them over the United States after the War of 1812. They're stored in an arsenal in Richmond, Virginia, and they just sat there in the arsenal. They were all flintlocks. They weren't really needed at the time, so they stored them. They kept them oiled. That's about all. Well, when the Civil War started, they didn't have facilities in Richmond for doing the conversions. So they packed them all up and sent them to Memphis, Tennessee, where they had the facilities to do the conversions. So this conversion on this one is a Memphis, Tennessee arsenal conversion. Again, Confederate by conversion. Or it may have been done actually down in Columbus, Mississippi, where Memphis fell fairly early in the war. They shipped all the gun-making equipment and conversion equipment down to the arsenal down in Columbus. And that pretty well told that part of the story. Well, I had them for a few more years. Nothing more showed up. I've been displaying or selling and displaying my books or whatever. The big Civil War show up in Nashville every year, the first full weekend of December. And one week, there's one show, 1998. Well, the way they lay the buildings out, there are 3 buildings, 1,000 tables at those shows. Between this row of tables and this row of tables, with the dealers in between, they have about 30 inches. Between this row of tables and this row of tables over here, where the spectators are, it's 10 or 12 feet. Why do they cramp us in so tight? Fire code. If the building burns, all the spectators and visitors can get out. To heck with the dealers. Well, as I say, it's cramped. And this particular Saturday, I've been at that table since 8 o'clock that morning. I had 4 or 5 cups of coffee. My wife bought me one, and other relic hunters at the show would bring me a cup of coffee. I had been to the bathroom. I was about to die. I couldn't get out behind the tables. I got down my hands and knees and crawled under the table. Actually came up almost on her lady's dress. She kind of looked at me, what you doing down there? Well, I headed to the restroom. I came back down the wrong aisle. And here's Jim Williams. Jim Williams from Mobile, Alabama, a big gun dealer. He had probably 150 rifles laying on his table. Just out behind like firewood. I got looking at them, and son of a gun, there was an old rusty rifle laying on the table. This one. Stapled to the stock was an old onion skin tag. You remember how the old typewriters, they have an onion skin, after years the type kind of starts bleeding. This rifle found in a cave on the side of Lookout Mountain in 1931. Oh my gosh. I looked at it, I picked it up and looked at it. Now there's no price tag on it. I said, Jim, what do you want for that thing? Oh, how about $600? Jim, I don't have that kind of money. Well, I looked at it some more, laid it down, went back to the table, and I got thinking, now I'm going to do some trading with him. I brought, as I mentioned earlier, I don't have any use for replicas. I want the originals. About 17 years before, at one of the Civil War shows, I had bought a replica Maynard carbine, because I didn't have an original. I bought it from Jim Williams. And I had finally acquired an original, so I had no more use for that replica. So I took it to the National Show. I took 3 dealers I thought might be interested, and none of them were. So I just stuck it under the table. That he's going to go home with me. I saw this and saw that. Aha. Went and grabbed it. I said, Jim, how do you trade me this old reproduction Maynard for that rusty rifle? He said, oh, I'll give you $400. I said, do you remember 17 years ago when I traded you so-and-so for a reproduction Maynard carbine? He said, yeah, I remember that deal. I said, this is it. This is all hell. Just call it even. I had this, and he had the carbine. When I traded him originally, I had nothing in. So this one basically was for free. And if you notice the end of the barrel, it's flared, kind of like a tulip. How come? Well, when you pour your powder down, bring your bullet, you're supposed to go straight up and down with your ramrod. Soldiers, like everybody else, get lazy. Just the ramrod running against the side of that barrel has actually flared it out. And it's still basically in reasonably good shape, but here's number 4 out of the cave. I was thrilled. I thought, well, I'll probably never see another one again. Oh, in the meantime, I had, at one of the shows, I ran across a guy from Dallas, Texas. And he said he had a rifle that he picked up somewhere that had that tag stapled to the stock that came out of a cave in Lookout Mountain. I said, can I get it from you? He said, nope. He said, it is not for sale at any price. He was going to send me photographs of it, never did. So I know there's one in Dallas, Texas. Well, see, that Civil War show, that was December. And then in February, we had a big Civil War show down in Dalton. I had these rifles on display, these top 4. And I had this board under there, you know, the letters and everything. A guy came by the table named Arthur Cook up near Nashville. He said, Charlie, I didn't know you collect those cave rifles. I said, yeah. So you get a chance to come by my table, I want you to see something. Well, about 4 o'clock that evening, I came by his table, and here's this one. Again, this onion skin tag stapled to the stock. This rifle found in the cave, 1931. Outside Lookout Mountain, 1931. It has the original bayonet with it. This is a model 1795 Springfield, made in 1810. Originally flint, converted. Here's the same conversions we have on this one right here, done in Memphis, Tennessee. He wanted $965 for it. Talk about inflation. Well, that's some hard trading I ended up with about $300 cash in this one. So this is number 5 for me, number 6 I know of. There's still 3 floating out there somewhere. I do have it in my will that these 5 rifles and all the information and background I have are going to be donated to Chickamauga Park, and Jim knows it. So I bet that they will eventually be on display. Well, I want to back up a little bit. These units were captured and on parole, came back to Demopolis, Alabama, and then about the latter part of October, they were given orders to go to Chattanooga. You'll receive new weapons when you get there, but take your old ones with you. Guess what? They got to Chattanooga and no new weapons. They had these old junkers. Well, about 2 weeks later, they get orders to go to foot of Lookout Mountain. You'll get your new weapons down there. Well, again, guess what? No new weapons. So now progresses a little bit further, getting up about the 15th or 18th of November, somewhere around there. They're giving orders to go up on the side of Lookout Mountain. Leave your tents. You'll receive new tents and new weapons up there on the side of Lookout Mountain. Well, guess what? No new weapons and no new tents. And Chattanooga decided to have some if it's fickle weather. November, what? It gets down into the 30s occasionally, mostly in the 50s and 60s during the day. Well, this particular night, the wind started coming up, got about 20-25 miles an hour. The temperature started dropping. It got down to about 3 or 4 degrees that night, and they had 5 inches of snow. No new weapons and no new tents. Well, some of the soldiers and units gravitated around to the west side of Lookout Mountain, which is pretty well quite a few limestone caves. And you know, a cave is same degree, same temperature, winter and summer, about 56, 58 degrees. And one of these squads holed up in this cave around the west side of the mountain, which is now all National Military Park. And then the morning before sunrise, November 23rd, 1863, here's about 2,500 Confederates on the side of Lookout Mountain. And suddenly, got little Joe Hooker with 14,000 Yankees appears on the side of the mountain, all the way from the creek down Reflection Riding, all the way to the cliff, coming around in a flanking motion. Well, this squad that's lived in this particular cave, this is out to get just kind of, I think, they were probably around talking to their buddies a little bit north or eating breakfast with their buddies. Here comes General Joe Hooker at 14,000 and only 2,500 Confederates on the side of the mountain. You know, one Confederate's worth 10 Yankees any day. So it was about 7-1 that day. Whoops. And well, my feeling is that this squad could not get back to their cave. That's how come the rifles got left there. I got a little letter I'm going to read. You know, when you're in battle, your country's in war, your troops are the best in the world. The enemy, they are the scum of the world. I don't care if you're the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, or what have you. The enemy's always the scum of the world. Well, the northern newspapers showed the Confederates as half barefooted, pants ripped up to here, long hair, like they stuck their fingers in a light socket, sticking out like static electricity would do you. I've seen that cartoon over and over again. Stupid, ignorant, can't read, can't write, don't know what we're doing. Well, this letter is written by I.R. Gale, Captain, Company H, 29th Mississippi, written December 3rd, 1863. My dear sister, I hasten to let you know where I am, how I came here, and how I am. On Tuesday, 23rd November, the Yankees with 15,000 men advanced against our brigade, 1,300, actually it's close to 2,500, on Lookout Mountain. They came in 4 solid columns against our small brigade. Though the contest was so unequal, I'm sure our brigade did not disgrace itself, detract anything from its former glory. It were better that we had made a retreat than fight such odds. But our orders were such that if the whole Yankee army had marched upon us, we were bound to fight the best we could. They completely overpowered us, and yet step by step, inch by inch, we fought them until nearly night, when only 360 were left, the not killed, wounded, or captured. Then we were reinforced, and our line drove them back a little way, and fought over the rough and rugged sides of the lookout until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. This was the grandest sight I ever saw. At night, we were not more than 75 yards distant from each other, and the flame of fire that burst forth from each gun when fired illumined a space 4 or 5 yards around the soldier. First imagine it. Dark as midnight could be, with a heavy fog, smoke as thick as could be, facing each other about 75 yards apart. Then the blazes of fire shoot forth from the thousands of guns and the noise created on both sides, the dead and wounded lying around. If you can imagine this as it appeared to me that night, you are feeling very, very miserable. I felt if I can just get out of this fight safe, how thankful I will be. And then I thought, what an awful time to be killed at night when no one can see or wait on me. This made me feel bad. And then it was not, and this made me feel bad, and then this was not all. In the morning while fighting the Yanks, they flanked my company. I thought to myself, if I stay here, I'll get to see Nashville. And as quick as lightning, I thought, yes, and they'll take me to Camp Chase too. So I made up my mind to risk a few bullets and shells, so off I went. The bullets and shells trying to find me. And luckily, or maybe mercifully, I escaped by climbing around the very top of Lookout Mountain, probably right at the base of the cliffs. When I rejoined my regiment, I found none of the rest of my company had escaped. Now I felt miserable. I felt like I had lost every friend I had and had to go through the rest of the fight with other companies and another brigade in which the commander gave me a company to command, Pettises of Vicksburg prisoners. That's where these rifles came from. When we were relieved and ordered to the rear, while I was sitting by a fire, who should I see come up but 2 of my company, the greatest rascals in it. Then I was as much rejoiced to see them as if someone had made me a present of a nice dinner. They also made their escape. They went directly up Lookout and up Smith's Trail, a little crevice in the bluff, at which some pleasure-seeking and romance person has suspended a ladder for amusement in peacetime. While putting it there, little did he think in a few years it would be the means of escape for some unfortunate rebels who were fighting for the country he then so much honored and loved, and by that means save them the horrors of Camp Chase or Camp Douglas. Take the whole fight, the escape and the good results which follow, as far as my part in the fight is concerned, is quite a nice little piece of romance, or something of the sort. For here I am at Dr. Mellon, plenty to eat, a nice tent, and free to go and wish, free to go and come as I wish, and everything I want. Is that the writing of a stupid, ignorant Southern? That's one of the most beautiful pieces of writing I've ever seen. This letter, this is the Xerox copy of it. Look at the handwriting of that thing. That is beautiful. This man was very, very well educated. This is the only letter I've ever seen by him. I would love to find out where the rest of his letters have gone to. There'd be just, a book in themselves. But this is kind of the story of the rifles. To me, there are 2 possible endings. Jerry Wormsley, a friend of mine, says the troops I'm talking about were not on the west side, were never on the west side of the mountain. He says they are always on the east side of the mountain. He thinks the cave is somewhere on the east side of the mountain, down near the foot. Everything I've been able to run down says they're on the west side of the mountain, up in the cliffs. There's two possible endings there. I think either one is valid, whichever, maybe not the same truth, but basically the same truths. Then, you use in the Civil War, the people were usually kind of straightforward. A lot of things were not talked about that are talked about very freely nowadays, such as sex and so forth. This is just kind of taboo. Well, I ran across another letter I'm going to read. It's just a short one. Usually when I'm at Civil War shows, I'll look at stuff and I'll see things I want. My wife always says, Charlie, you said you're tighter than the drum head. You don't want to put out any money to buy anything. Well, we were at a show up in Murfreesboro, and I saw, in a guy's case, he had 3 original pencil drawings, all by one person, Civil War, and 3 letters. He wanted $450 for them. I didn't want to put out the money. I bought my wife over her shoulder and said, if you want it, get it, dadgummit. Just don't worry about the money, just get it. If you want it, get it. Okay, okay. I wrote a check for $450. That weekend, reading this one letter, I think she got the $450 worth out of it, reading to I swear every dealer in the whole building over there, half of the customers. This is written by Private James Long, 5th Kentucky Cavalry, U.S., Chattanooga, Tennessee, September 9, 1863. Dear friend Amos, now you notice I haven't found a decent pen, but I did find something else. A few days ago, while out on a foraging detail, an odd thing occurred. It was fortunate for me, but unfortunate for the rebel officers, a captain and a lieutenant in General Bragg's forces. As I told you previously, we have been going out further and further to find forage. This time we traveled about 10 miles in a southeasterly direction, and were quite a ways into the southern held area. We came upon a cabin situated in a small valley between 2 rocky ridges. Now this I can get you in about 200-300 feet of where this cabin was, on the backside of Missionary Ridge, right off of Tunnel Boulevard. And thinking there may be some useful food stuff inside, we decided to search it. Well, we moved in on foot and burst through the door and beheld a rebel lieutenant, pretty well drunk, and overpowered him. Upon hearing a noise from the next room, one of the boys ordered whoever it was to come out and to surrender at once. After so ordering 3 times, a young half-dressed female came out and begged us not to shoot her. Upon entering the room, we encountered a tall, bearded man who was stark naked and was brandishing a revolver, but upon seeing so many of us, he decided not to use it. After having gotten dressed, he turned out to be a rebel captain. You can imagine the merriment in camp as the story made the rounds. This is the first contact I've had with the enemy, and I sure am sorry for that captain, as he no doubt had envisioned a more glorious way to go down in history. That's one of my favorite letters of all time. Well, this is pretty well the story of the rifles. I mean, I can add a couple more small tidbits to it. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, a friend of mine up at Lookout Mountain, Felder Forbes, his father owned one of the big signal threading mills or something like that in Chattanooga. He was down on the side, just below the scenic highway where Sales Harrison's house is, dropped down below the highway down there, squirrel hunting. Well, he stepped in a hole. The bayonet through his foot. It was sticking straight up in the ground. Actually put it all the way through his shoe and through his foot. He said that hole, about this big around, and had about 10 or 15 rifles just stuck down in it. I think this is another one of these caches. Just recently I heard about another one that's found down in Wauhatchie. The guy operates one of the motels down there. I went down and talked to him. A friend of mine told me about it. I went down and talked to him. His family owned a huge, probably 2,000 or 3,000 acres down the Wauhatchie area at one time. And he was just out there hiking around on the property. And and he saw what would look like a log that kind of washed out through some of the heavy rains they'd had. He said it looked kind of unusual. He went back to the house and got a shoulder or something, and the raker started scratching at it. And he's got a bundle about this big around, he says about that long, kind of wrapped in oilcloth. And he says he scratched into it a little bit. He found one rifle. This is evidently another bunch of rifles. It may be part of this same situation. And I haven't had time this spring to get a hold, get with him, but I'm going to get this fall. I'm going to get with him. He told me he's going to let me borrow them. I'll probably try to separate them for him, wash them down, somewhat clean them. Hopefully he'll give me one or two. Maybe. I don't know if he will or not, but at least I'll get photographs of them. I am going to do a book, or a small booklet on the history of these cave rifles, and these will probably be entered into it also. Now, I do have occasionally people say, I got one of those cave rifles, I'm willing to sell it to you. I've known enough of them, I've seen enough of them now and handled them. I know pretty well what to look for and what not to look for. About 3 months ago, I had a guy call me from down in Mississippi. He said, I just bought this one. It's got a guy's initials on the stock. It's an infield. It's been cut down like to cavalry size. And it's got a tag on the stock, stapled to the stock. I said, what does it read it? Please read it to me. This rifle found in 1931 in a cave on the side of Missionary Ridge. Huh? Somebody heard my story. Missionary Ridge has no caves. It's all dirt. The only solid rock in that whole ridge is where they put the railroad tunnel through. They put it through solid rock. That's about the only solid rock in that whole ridge. Those engineers knew something back then. But as I say, I occasionally get one offered to me and no, it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. So I got 5 now, 5 of the 9, I know where number 6 is. To me, this is what I call living history. History that talks to you. You got any questions? I'll be glad to try to answer them.
The piece that's in Texas, do you know the guy's name that's got it?
I have. We've moved twice since then, and so many of my papers and notes have gotten misplaced. I do not know where that name is anymore.
If he knew that you had those 5 and what you intended to do with them or where they intended to be, he'd probably be
I wish.
Yeah.
But as I say, I've completely lost his name. The guy that originally found them, Bill Haynes, is the only person that I know of anymore that knew their name, hit that guy's name. And Bill's been dead about 17, 18 years now. So, I mean, I've even lost that name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Charlie, did you ever get any bites from the 6 months, 2.5 years that they were down at the...
No, I didn't get any bites as to anybody that knows of another one. But Jim says there was an awful lot of interest in those rifles. People just seem to be, here they are with these old rusty relics, but they had a story that he said most people that look at them, he said they were absolutely fascinated. That's when I really decided that they are in my will, that these letters and everything I know will go to Chickamauga Park. He says it will be basically on permanent display, kind of like the Fuller gun collection is now. I got a few more things that I'm also going to turn over to him. I guess that's about it. Yes.
How did the fellow in Texas acquire?
He, somewhere in a collection, it just, it showed up, like I say, this one came out of showed up in Chattanooga, this one showed up in Jasper, Tennessee, this one in Ringo, Georgia, this one showed up in Mobile, Alabama, this one actually showed up in the state sale up in Sevierville, Tennessee. So they literally got scattered to the winds as this lady was handing out to people that were interested in all her garbage.
Hey, thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome.
Let's give Charlie. Let's take a short break and we'll let Charlie breaks down his exhibit. If you have any questions for him, you can probably answer that for him.